This is Win News.
Tonight, hundreds rally for asylum seekers in Hobart. The PM finalising his cabinet as votes are cast in the Canning by-election. And football fans flock to Blunston Arena for the TSL Grand Final. Good evening, I'm Georgia Love. Hundreds have gathered on Hobart's Parliament lawns to call on the federal government to change its asylum seeker policy and boost refugee intake. The Tasmanian government says it's accepting almost twice the state's per capita share, but there's calls to take in even more. An impassioned plea.
It's not the nation we want to be, and our politicians have to listen to us.
Hundreds converged on Parliament lawns to raise their voices and call on the federal government to change its asylum seeker policy.
Last week, the Australian government announced it will take in 12,000 refugees displaced in the Syrian crisis, while the state government has committed to taking in 500 of that figure. But there's calls here today for us to open up our borders and accept even more people.
Rather than crowding people into the poor suburbs of Sydney and Melbourne. This is a state that needs population.
The state government spokesperson says it's accepting twice the state's per capita share, while the immigration minister couldn't be contacted for comment.
We are a rich country and I'm confident in our parliamentarians here in Tasmania that they can find a way to solve this problem and to welcome more people here.
Elizabeth O'Neill, Win News. The state government will reopen 12 beds in the Launceston General Hospital's emergency department in a bid to ease pressure during... There's just under 2 hours of voting left for West Australians in the all-important seat of Canning. Lauren Giannoli is in the suburb of Pinjarra.
The Canning by-election is Malcolm Turnbull's first electoral test, and all opinion polls do seem to indicate that Andrew Hastie will hold the seat for the Liberal Party. An opinion poll done by ReachTel in today's West Australian newspaper shows that after preferences, Mr Hastie has a 13-point lead over the Labor candidate, Matt Keogh. Now, this electorate of Canning has 112,000 voters in it. It stretches from Armidale in the city's southeast all the way down to Mandurah. Up to a fifth of voters did cast their vote early, and that was before Monday's leadership ballot, and perhaps when some were wanting to send a message to Tony Abbott.
Well, it's been a life-changing week for Malcolm Turnbull after seizing the country's top job. But as the new Prime Minister and his wife discovered today, there's little time to adjust.
A Saturday stroll for the Turnbulls will never be the same again.
Well, this is a bit of a change.
Well, North Launceston are this season's TSL premiers, defeating Glenorchy by 12 points in a thrilling grand final at Blunston Arena this afternoon to claim back-to-back flags. Close to 6,000 fans turning out for the first grand final to be held in the south in 5 years.
With club colours donned, the Glenorchy and North Launceston faithful flooded through the gates well before the first bounce, ready to soak up the action of Tasmania's biggest game of the season.
With the crowd settled in and the warm-up over, it's time for the best two teams of the season to go head-to-head, and fans say it's going to be a thriller.
Hope it's a good game, hope it's a close game.
Olivia Hicks, Win News.
Ahead on Win News, spectacular scenes as a volcano erupts in Mexico. And the Australian Defence Force calls in the big guns for its Careers Expo in Hobart. Welcome back. Dozens of people marched through the streets of Hobart today, calling on the federal government to ban live animal export. It was part of a global protest against the controversial trade, which was temporarily halted in 2011 after revelations of cruelty against Australian cattle in Indonesia.
No one was happier about it all than Prince Harry.
When we come back, the soccer superstars giving Syrian refugees something to smile about. And hundreds of fishermen attempt to hook the big one of Tasmania's annual Trout Expo. A tense standoff is mounting in Europe, with neighbouring countries now arguing over who is responsible for the massive influx of migrants. The Hungarian government says it's furious with Croatia for suddenly deciding to reject the new arrivals, sending thousands of refugees flooding back to its borders.
Open again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Tom Cooper, Win News.
Looking at today's weather now, and it was mostly sunny day for the state with mild to warm temperatures. It was mostly fine for the islands. King was 15, Flinders up to 17. Overcast though in the northwest, Burnie got to 15 degrees, Devonport slightly cooler. A cloudy but mild day for Launceston with 17 the top. It was mainly sunny in the east, St Helens got to 16, Swansea 18. Partly cloudy for the west coast but a warm 19 degrees in Strawn, and it was a mostly fine day in Hobart, also a top of 19. I'll have a full report for you later in the bulletin. When we come back though, the unusual setting that has moviegoers lining up. And a boost for Tasmanian ballet dancers. Welcome back. A heated dispute over a hefty lotto win has landed two former neighbours in court. One of the men claimed the $2.5 million prize, with the other arguing they had a verbal agreement to split the winnings.
Darren Jamieson and John Taylor were best mates.
Auditions for the company's first intake will be held early next year. Well, sports up next with Mick Fanning back on top of the world 2 months after fighting off a shark. And North Launceston claims back-to-back flags in a thrilling TSL Grand Final. Well, as you heard earlier, North Launceston has claimed back-to-back flags after winning this afternoon's TSL Grand Final against Glenorchy by 12 points at Blunston Arena. In his first State League season, the Bombers' Josh Holland was judged best of field, winning the Darryl Baldock medal. The loss is a heartbreaking one for the Magpies, who dominated the competition all season.
Mike Brady kicked off proceedings with a classic hit. As the teams ran out onto Blunston Arena, Glenorchy's Jay Bowden was forced to make a quick pit stop after winning the Alistair Lynch medal as the league's best and fairest player. Teams were locked in a shootout, the Bombers hanging on to win by 12 points, securing back-to-back premierships.
This is the first time North Launceston has won back-to-back premierships for more than 60 years. Now all that's left to do is celebrate.
And that's set to continue well into the night. Brent Costello, Win News.
The AFL now, and North Melbourne is tonight hoping to claim some September revenge in its cutthroat semi-final against Sydney. Corey Norris is at ANZ Stadium, and Corey, they'll face a stern test from the Swans.
No doubt about that. Huge test for the Kangaroos tonight. The Sydney Swans still the red-hot favourites for tonight's match. But no doubt North Melbourne are so desperate to atone for the end of their season last year, where on this very ground against this exact same opposition, they were absolutely smashed by the Sydney Swans. It certainly doesn't get any easier for the winner of tonight's match. They head to Perth for a prelim final clash with West Coast.
And that's all in sport tonight. Stay with us. I'll have all the weather details for you after the break.
This report brought to you by Holden, where there's a lot to get excited about. Now that's a future I want to see.
Well, it was a lovely, mostly sunny day across the state today. Just a bit of cloud developing in the afternoon, but temperatures were generally within a degree or two of average. It was a mostly fine day for the islands. King was 15, Flinders 17. Was overcast though in the northwest. Burnie got to 15 degrees, Devonport slightly cooler. A cloudy but mild day for Launceston with 17 the top. It was mainly sunny in the east, and Helens got to 16, Swansea 18. Partly cloudy for the west coast, but a warm 19 degrees in Strawn. And it was a mostly fine day in Hobart as well, 19 degrees. The satellite is showing a high pressure system centred east of Tasmania, extending a ridge over much of the country. On the water, swells up to 2.5 metres in the west and south, and winds of up to 20 knots in the east, 15 knots elsewhere. Around the state tomorrow it will be mainly fine for the Bass Strait Islands. King should get to 18, Flinders 20 degrees. Showers for the northwest, Burnie and Devonport will both have maximums of 15. Showers for Launceston 2 and 18 degrees. It will be mostly sunny in the east. St Helens and Swansea both tops of 18 expected. Wet for the west coast with 17 in Strawn, and it will be a mostly fine day again in Hobart with a top of 20 degrees. Around the country, showers in Sydney, Canberra and Melbourne, mainly fine for all the other major centres. And looking ahead back home, showers for the northwest on Monday, but they should clear by Tuesday. Looking much the same for Launceston, the temperature dropping right down on Tuesday though. And cold days ahead for Hobart too, with showers right through, a top of just 10 on Tuesday. Well, that's Win News for this Saturday. You can keep up to date with the latest local news on our Facebook and Twitter pages. I'm Georgia Love. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.